Roll for Crit here with some PAX Unplugged 2019 coverage. We're back in the studio, but we're still talking about some cool stuff that we got to see on the show floor of the convention this year. This one is a really unique and interesting one. It's a new blend of physical and digital, a system called Blinks from Move 38.
Yes, this game, or games I guess we should say, uses these small hexagon electronic, pieces that have their own little computers inside them. And some of them will come with games, and you can actually have them teach the game to other ones, and they'll temporarily learn it. If they have a game, they'll still hold their original game. And then all these games will use a bunch of these different little hexagons you can play together, and we'll explain the few that we played and how they worked, explaining they of course light up for depending on what your game is.
Right, essentially like
blink.
You touch one to the others, and now they're all part of one game.
Correct.
It's a really interesting process. There's almost like a little AI in
a little
there.
hive mind thing going on.
but simpler than that. But
let's explain some games that maybe so people can understand. I think the first one that's probably the easiest to go with is Fracture. Simply, you take a bunch of these blinks.
Blinks. They're blinks.
Yeah. And you put them together for a number of players in different colors, including some neutral colors. And the goal is to move pieces so that your color pieces won't touch any other of their own color. You can break it up as any way you want, though. So you don't take one piece at a time. You could split it in half. You could take most of them and rotate around, do a lot of these weird things.
Right, and they're all magnetized, so like they actually will stick together. You don't need to worry about like your table getting messed up. And especially in a game like this, it's very hectic, fast-paced because you're moving stuff and then you're deciding where it goes.
But let's move on to another one, Mortals. So this is a two-player game, and the way it works is every time you click one of your blinks to your opponent, or any blink, but usually you want to click to your opponents, you steal life from them. And you'll see a little timer on them, like a little life wheel going down. And when they hit 0, they become a zombie. And they start sucking life force from everything. And your goal is to have be the last man standing. So you do this whole weird thing. Sometimes you may want to steal from your own because you take one of yours that's about to die and connect it to one that has a bit more life. Or you can try to hit like 3 of your opponents at once, so it pulls from all 3. It's just really weird because that one becomes very hectic because all this time runs out. The first time we played, you actually won like by a millisecond. We both had like one about to die, and you just moved yours.
Didn't we think it was a tie at first?
We thought at first, but then the way yours was blinking, it was photo finish.
Right. And everything in all these games too is there's no other components. It's just the blinks. So like all of the information is on them. So like you said, you're looking at what color are they, how filled up is that piece. It's very interesting. It really requires you to be focused and understand what's going on, but it's all very apparent still.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones I think those two are maybe a little more on the like competitive gamey end of things, but there are a couple that I feel like are more casual sort of style. Like there's one called Flick Flop, which is sort of like a shuffleboard where you have a blink and you want to slide it down a path like a shuffleboard board and hit other blinks, but those blinks are changing their colors every few seconds, and you want to match your personal color. So your timing and of course the speed and force of your flick is really important. And that was an interesting like dexterity game. That was pretty cool.
There was this space game, I think Asteroids,
Astros, something like that, yeah.
And your goal is to fill up your ship by mining from other flicks. You have to connect to flicks on the board, which are the asteroids, and each side has a different color, and you're trying to race, we both could be going for the blue resource at the same time, so it becomes this fun race of back and forth, trying to collect and being the first one to fill your ship 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, so then there also was just an actual full-on racing game called Speed Racer. This one's really weird because basically you have a car, and the way you know your car is a light is traveling across the blinks you have connected, and it's sort of like one of those old any kind of scrolling screen arcade game where the back you need to then move it and make a line at the front so that it's more track for your car.
But the track can only connect in a certain area, and it'll change the way it turns and stuff. And of course, the car starts getting faster and faster and faster.
That one was nuts.
Well, what was hilarious too was someone actually, while we were there, was able to make a ring Like they worked for them where they can make rings, in essence, became infinite loop. So this light just kept spinning around really fast.
That's really crazy. And then I think the last one we really got to see, maybe there was
Puzzle
more.
101.
Puzzle was Puzzle 101, which every time you play it, it generates a puzzle. And you can play this by yourself or with other people, like working on it together. But you have to arrange the colors in a certain way and
there's
pattern.
only one way for it to be arranged, and it can't touch anything else. And it has like apparently it does all these different. It was so crazy the thought like this little computer comes up with guarantees it. It's
always a unique. It was all kind of like a Rubik's cube sort of.
Yeah, that's how they describe it.
Yeah, the way that you're figuring it out. So like all the games are pretty different. They have they share similar components, of course the same components.
Now the reason I want to go back to 6 being important for a lot of them is the core set of this is going to come with 6 blinks, each one with their own game, and this little like sushi roll.
yeah.
But what I think is really cool about this can be if this has a strong support and keeps growing, this could be a thing like similar to Nintendo where you buy one game of cartridge in essence to learn a new game.
Yeah, that is what it feels like. I mean, they do have an expansion for more, and a lot of the games can use more. I think like really getting 12 for some of those games. There was at least one that actually required 12.
Fracture was the one that wanted 2 sets. The rest can go with 6.
But it's a really ingenious system and very unlike most things you've seen before. What I think is really cool about it is it feels like the kind of thing that, especially with that sushi roll thing, you could take it to a bar, to a house party, and just play around for like 10 minutes. They're like very light. They feel like the kind of games you can just like have a beer, like people will come over and want to look at it because it looks really cool.
Now that you've said that, I really wish we asked them if it was beer proof. Like,
yeah, we'll do a liquid test. I'm sure they don't want you to do that. But that is really neat. I think the downside is it's pricey because there's a lot of tech in there. And if you're someone who's spending a lot of money on these, you want to be sure you're gonna get your investment's worth out of them. And I do think for most of those games, like if you get into Puzzle 101, I think you will get your return. I think is a potential for a lot of replay value there, but the games are simple. So it's replay value in the sense more like something like chess is probably too strong of a comparison, but like one of those like abstract classic games versus like the newer style games, modern board games where the replay value comes from like there's infinite strategies or what have you. This is more like traditional style games. But I think if you're into that, the tech is so cool.
And like I was saying, if this does take off, it'd be really cool to be like, oh, let me just check out which cartridges they have for sale, or blinks. Oh, that's a cool blink. Just get that,
Yeah,
you can do a lot. This has the potential to bring some really weird new stuff to the table. Pun intended.
Yeah, that's where you bring it. So really neat. It's really cool to see digital technology implemented in a way that isn't just an app that's on the side. It really is part of the components. It's definitely unlike anything you've ever seen before. This was on Kickstarter a while ago, and I think they're planning another Kickstarter soon for more stuff too. So stay tuned for that. But it's called Blinks. Let us know what you think about it, if you enjoyed any of the footage you saw, or if you've had the chance to try it for yourself anywhere. This has been Roll for Crit.
Here's an idea. Support our Patreon or like and subscribe to this channel for more.
Fagulu Miktawa audio expansion Wakana Cthulhu awesome.